What do you call a church consultant who started doing church consultations in 1988? You call that person an old consultant. That's what I am. I did my first church consultation in 1988. I didn't know I was doing a consultation. I was a pastor in St. Petersburg. The pastor had heard that I'd done studies in the area of church growth, gotten a doctorate in it, and he thought I knew some things. I didn't really. He asked me to come look at his church to find out why his church was not growing. It was a pretty simple solution. You look inside the church, it didn't look like the neighborhood. It was a malady back in those days. It was called ethnicitis. In other words, the church did not match the community. And so we talked through it, and he began to reach those in the community, and eventually the community began to lead the church. That's another story into itself, but that's how I got started in consultations. And then from there, one referral led to another, hundreds upon hundreds of consultations, thousands upon thousands of coaching calls later. And you can bet that I've had some different type of things happen, maybe outright funny. I'm going to share 3 of those in this podcast. Before we get to those 3, we want to thank belaysolutions.com and look at their download, 25 tasks a pastor can delegate to an assistant. Great download, great free resource. Do that right now. And by the way, we have another download that is available too, and it's something to help you predict the attendance of your church. You can look at that as well in the show notes. But always, thank you, Belay. They're not only our founding sponsor, they are our exclusive sponsor. They have come alongside me and 2 organizations that I have led. And every time I've gone to Belay to find people to work in our organization, they become part of our team. We don't think of them as Belay people as much as we think of them as our own, but Belay does all the work, all the matching, and incredible organization with incredible people. Get that download once again in the show notes or at belaysolutions.com/Thom Rainer. Church consultations. Today, they're more widely accepted. Back in 1988, you rarely heard the word. As a matter of fact, probably the only well-known church consultant when I was doing consultations was not Thom Rainer, but it was the late Lyle Schaller, who was primarily doing mainline consultations. Brilliant man. Had the opportunity to meet with him on several occasions, even to pinch hit for him when he was sick and not able to speak. But he kind of set the stage in many ways for church consultations. And now we have our own organization that certifies church consultants. I would encourage you, if you're a pastor or just somebody who wants to help the church, become a certified church consultant. Look in the show notes for the link to Church Consultation University. It's an incredible ministry, an incredible resource for church consultations. So check those show notes out as well. But I have had a number of funny things happen in church consultations. I don't know if these are the top 3, but there are 3 that came to mind right away. And I'm not so sure number 3 is funny as more as it is sad, but it's kind of sad and kind of funny as well. One of the funny things that happened was a consultation that was primarily virtual. Zoom had been created. It was in its incipient stage, but we were using it, and we were learning that we could do a lot of things virtually that we used to do where we had to go on site. And it's been very good for the churches because it makes consultations a lot less expensive when you don't have to pay the travel and the time for consultants on site. And so we're in this virtual consultation, and it's time to give an update to the pastor. I don't know if this particular pastor was new to Zoom and did not recognize, even though he could see himself in a camera, that we could see him very well. And let me just say it straight. This pastor came to the Zoom meeting in his underwear. I'm telling you that. And by the way, there were 2 of us from Church Answers, both males. He was a male, so I just want to make that clear. It was 3 males. But still, it was downright funny. And for me to be able to talk through the consultation and my associate to text me during the Zoom call and say, "Is he in his underwear?" And I just text back, "Yes, he is." And I'm trying not to smile too much. That ended up being an hour meeting with the pastor in his underwear. I don't know what he's thinking. It's one of those that we usually record, but we decided to delete that one because we did not want that saved for posterity. We still talk about it at Church Answers. It was, I guess, one of the byproducts of not quite getting virtual yet. I bet now he's looking back and said, I think I came to that meeting with Rayner and the other consultant, and I didn't have anything on but my underwear. Wow, that was different. Second consultation that was kind of funny. The last two are kind of sad, kind of funny. But Sam and I were interviewing someone. Sam and I were doing a consultation in another state, and part of the consultation was interviewing lay people. And we asked the question of this one lady who was a charter member, which means she was one of the founding members of the church. And I think the church is about 40 years old, 35, 40 years old. But it had been in steady but noticeable decline for 20 years. And we asked the question, what do you think some of the reasons are for the decline in the church? And she responded, there is no decline in the church. We had the numbers in front of us. It was a small decline, but over 20 years, the attendance of the church had been less than half than its peak. And we said, yes, it has. These numbers indicate your church is less than half the attendance size it used to be. She said, no, it's not. And so it's just kind of hard to know where to go from there. And finally, I said, we've got the numbers that show your attendance is down. She said, those numbers are wrong. We said, your church provided the numbers. And she said, well, somebody stupid in our church provided the wrong numbers. It was just really hard to keep a straight face when someone, and I get it, when you're looking at a 50% decline over 20 years, week by week, there is a sense that it's imperceptible. For not to be able to notice it and look back over what the church looked like 2 decades earlier versus now. But boy, not only was she adamant, she was angry. And that was one of those interviews that you look back on and you have a smile on your face, but you say, that is not what I thought would happen. Finally, we're talking to some elders after an initial round of consultation, and we started talking about what we found. And I think there were 6 or 7 elders, and one of them spoke up, and they said, okay, when do we fire him? And again, this is not funny because it was the pastor's livelihood at stake. And we said, beg your pardon? Well, we hired you to find reasons to fire the consultant. I said, no, you didn't. You hired me to find out the health of the church. And they argued with us. And this, to my knowledge, is the only time we have ever been fired from a consultation because we were not ready to recommend that the pastor be fired. That's not really funny, but it's kind of in hindsight, really ironic that we were hired to fire the pastor. And when we did not recommend that, they fired us. So just simply to say, yes, Church Answers has been fired as well. 3 funny things, maybe a little bit pathetic on the funny side, that happened in our church consultations. They're definitely different. And every time we go somewhere, we have different experiences. We love doing consultations. We love serving churches, but there's sometimes it gets really tough. As always, thank you for being a part of our podcast. We're going to keep on talking about the topic evangelism, discipleship, and more podcasts to come. And always, we're going to be thanking Belay because Belay Solution is the founding sponsor, the exclusive sponsor, and they are doing a great job helping churches and other organizations. Check out, again, their download 25 tasks a pastor can delegate to an assistant. You can see it in the show notes, or you can go to belaysolutions.com/Thom Rayner. That's THOM Rayner. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in the next podcast. Hey, folks, this is a PS to our podcast. We got some exciting stuff that we want to offer you absolutely for free. Sam, when you think about predictive factors in a church's growth, if you take out demographics, what are some things that come to mind? Just 2. I mean, don't give me a list of 10. Just 2 or 3 things that come to mind on predictive growth of a church.
Well, evangelism and whether the church is doing it or not.
Bingo.
And then I will add, is it an ongoing evangelism emphasis?
Double bingo.
Well.
double, and maybe something about leadership and their commitment to that. So all of the above.
Evangelistic churches have evangelistic pastors. Is the staff, is the lead pastor doing the work themselves?
We have a free download for you, and it's actually a sheet that you can self-score. You answer 20 questions, anywhere from strongly disagree to strongly agree, and we come back and we predict what your growth rate is going to be for the next year in worship attendance. It's not a perfect tool, but it's a good tool. There's a link to that for the attendance predictor. Look in the show notes. You'll absolutely love it. That's cool. We'll see you soon.